Hello, my name is Keith Angle, and I'm going to read to you my rhetorical analysis of Senator Margaret Chase Smith's Declaration of Conscience. On the 1st of June, 1950, freshman Senator Margaret Chase Smith delivered to the Senate a speech that has become known as her Declaration of Conscience speech. In this speech, she describes what she terms the lack of leadership in government, which was enabling Senator Joseph McCarthy's impassioned and oftentimes unjustified harassment and vilification of people he believed who were communist members, Communist Party sympathizers, or people who knew someone in the Communist Party. The purpose of this essay is to conduct a rhetorical analysis of Senator Margaret Chase Smith's Declaration of Conscience and her use of ethos, pathos, and logos to produce a positive impact on the politics of personal destruction that was running rampant in the Senate in 1950 and does so still today. Senator Smith was first elected to the congressional seat her husband had before he died in office in April 1940. And she won her Senate seat in 1948 with a resounding 71% of the vote. She was the first woman to serve in both houses of Congress and the first woman to win election to the Senate without the widow or appointment connection. Now, Senator Joseph McCarthy was also a young senator who was intent on protecting the United States by ferreting out Communist Party members and sympathizers. His tactics were such that most folks were afraid to oppose him for fear of being labeled a communist and having their lives ruined in the process. And there was such hysteria that many didn't make note of the fact that Senator McCarthy didn't bring forth much or any evidence to back up his claims. Such was the prevalent atmosphere of fear that Senator Margaret Chase Smith stepped into and issued a call for order in her Declaration of Conscience. This rhetorical analysis will be conducted using Aristotle's ingredients of persuasion or appeals. There are three distinct categories, and they are ethos, pathos, and logos. In rhetoric, ethos represents credibility or an ethical appeal, which involves persuasion by the character involved. Pathos is a method of convincing people with an argument drawn out through an emotional response. And logos, definition derived from a Greek word logos, means logic. Logos is a literary device that can be described as a statement, sentence, or argument used to convince or persuade. Senator Smith formats her use of ethos in her speech where she succinctly states, "I speak as a Republican, I speak as a woman, I speak as a United States Senator, I speak as an American." With those four pillars of truthful and undeniable fact, Margaret Chase Smith constructed rock-solid and irreproachable credibility that would never be questioned on the floor of the Senate of the United States of America. It is my firmly held belief that her credibility was hardened and fortified when she upbraided the Senate for its lack of leadership in the wake of Republican Senator Joe McCarthy's unwarranted and oftentimes unfounded accusations against leading citizens and even the military in his blind rush to extinguish communism and make a name for himself. Okay. In Vicki Ann Bell's thesis entitled A Rhetoric Analysis of Ethical Appeal in Select Speeches by Senator Margaret Chase Smith, she's also arguing for her effective usage of credibility as a speaker. Bell states, in other people, she admires more than any others the two traits of honesty and of belief in oneself. These two traits, along with courage, sincerity, and forthrightness, appear evident in her famous Declaration of Conscience. Indeed, Bell's analysis of Smith's beliefs regarding the importance of morality build upon the credibility of Senator Margaret Chase Smith's political career. Building on the bedrock of Senator Smith's usage of pathos in the very beginning of her speech, she pronounces a national feeling of fear and frustration that could result in national suicide. Smith portrays in the above-mentioned statement this powerful emotion of national fear to cause a reaction from the Senate in order to get their attention. In Victoria E. McBraer's article, Margaret Chase Smith's 1950 Declaration of Conscience Senate speech, A Stance Against the Exploitation of Fear, she also discusses Smith's usage of pathos to connect with the listeners. McBraer contends she appealed to her fellow senators' emotions in order to exemplify that the manner in which they were performing was not only unconstitutional, but immoral. Their individual powers and privileges were meant to serve as a medium through which citizens could feel their voices were being heard. But these senators, who by definition were supposed to be for the people, were instead abusing their powers for their own good and allowing their fellow colleagues to baselessly smear one another without consequence. Indeed, McBraer's analysis of Smith's usage of pathos in the aforementioned builds upon her accusation of a national fear. Moreover, Senator Margaret Chase Smith, who uses logos to get the Senate to get together to oppose the vilification without supportive evidence of Americans that were accused of participation in communism. Smith lays out her Declaration of Conscience in the following: to this extent, Democrats and Republicans alike have unwittingly but undeniably played directly into the communist design of confuse, divide, and conquer. In this particular statement, she unveils the communist operations. In Ashley Nyham's article, Declaration of Conscience, Rhetorical Analysis, she also explores Smith's usage of logos within her speech. Nyham states the following: Smith also employed the rhetorical use of logos or logical appeal to attempt to unite the Republican Party by listing the faults of the Democrats. Today we have a Democratic administration that has developed a mania for loose spending and loose programs. History is repeating itself, and the Republican Party again had the opportunity to engage as the champion of unity and prudence. Despite lacking more artful language, this logical appeal was compelling. Smith used extrinsic evidence of the faults of the opposing party to unite the Republicans. Again, Nyham explains Smith's attempt to get the two political parties to coexist and free the American people from their fears of communism. Although some may argue that Smith's rhetoric overall was ineffective and did not end McCarthy's power, however, she was one of the few people who were willing to stand up and expose McCarthy, and she was also one of the first to expose McCarthy's tactics. In conclusion, through Margaret Chase Smith's Declaration of Conscience and her effective usage of ethos, pathos, and logos, this fearless woman was able to strike the first blow to the politics of personal destruction, and as a result, today her powerful rhetoric continues to be examined by many and practiced. Thank you and good night.